There is a note inside a fake locket at the bottom of a dark lake. To the Dark Lord. I know I will be dead long before you read this. He was 18 years old when he wrote it. He didn't tell his brother, he didn't tell Dumbledore, he didn't tell the Order, he didn't tell anyone. He just went into the dark, alone, with a plan that only he believed in, and he never came back. His name was Regulus Arcturus Black, and this is everything the wizarding world never got to say about him. To understand Regulus, you have to understand the house he was born into. The Blacks did not tolerate deviation. They had a tapestry on the wall of Grimmauld Place, a literal family tree, centuries old, and if you stepped out of line, they burned you off it. Not metaphorically, with an actual flame. Sirius stepped out of line. He was sorted into Gryffindor. He became friends with Muggleborns. He worshipped James Potter. He ran away at 16 to live with a family that actually wanted him, and he never looked back. And when Sirius left, Regulus stayed. This is the part people miss. They look at Sirius, charismatic, brave, golden Sirius, and they assume Regulus was just the lesser version. The coward, the one who gave in, but that's not what the text shows. Sirius had somewhere to go. He had the Potters. He had options even if he didn't know it yet. Regulus had nothing. He was 12, 13, 14 years old, living in a cold, dark house with parents who still believed, who saw Sirius as the great disappointment and Regulus as the heir, the good son, the right kind of black. That is an impossible weight for a child to carry. So Regulus became what they needed him to be. He excelled at school. He was sorted into Slytherin. He wore the family name like it was natural because to him by then, it was. He learned to see the world the way his parents saw it, through the language of blood purity, of hierarchy, of a magical world that deserved to be protected from the wrong kind of magic. He was 16 years old when he was given the dark mark, and he took it willingly. Here is the question nobody asks about Regulus Black. What does it take to change your mind when changing your mind means becoming an enemy of everything you were raised to love? That's what this video is really about. When Regulus became a Death Eater, he chose it. That is the uncomfortable truth. He wasn't coerced, he wasn't blackmailed, he wasn't dragged in. He chose it because his entire life had been preparation for that moment. Every lesson his parents taught him. Every conversation at the dinner table where blood purity was spoken about like it was obvious, like it was natural, like of course the world worked this way, had always worked this way, would always work this way. He didn't choose evil. He chose the world he'd been raised inside. That doesn't make it right, but it makes it human. And the wizarding world and fandom tends to flatten complex choices into simple ones, good or bad, brave or cowardly, the ones who fought and the ones who didn't. But Regulus is a much harder story than that. He is a story about a boy who built his entire identity on something and then watched that something show him who it really was. Changing your mind sounds simple. It isn't. Changing your mind when the stakes are mortal, when the people around you are wearing the same mark you're wearing, when the cause you serve now wants you dead for defecting, that is one of the most terrifying things a person can do. And Regulus did it alone. With no one guiding him, no mentor, no Order of the Phoenix, no Dumbledore appearing with answers, just a boy. And a choice, and a moment that cracked everything open. Voldemort needed a test subject. He was hiding a horcrux, a fragment of his own soul, inside a locket, inside a cave, behind a protection that required a human to drink a potion that caused unbearable suffering. Visions, hallucinations, a thirst so complete it drove people toward the poisoned water below. He needed someone to drink it to confirm the trap worked. He chose Kreacher. Kreacher was Regulus's house elf. He had been with the Black family for decades. He had, in every sense that mattered, grown up alongside Regulus. He was not a weapon. He was not a tool. He was, to Regulus, real. But Voldemort used him as a disposable test subject because he was not human. Because in the Dark Lord's framework of power, he did not count. Voldemort ordered Kreacher to drink the potion, leave the locket in the basin, and then disapparate home. House elves can disapparate from places humans cannot. So Kreacher followed the order. He drank. He placed the locket. He came home to Grimmauld Place, broken, traumatized, barely alive, and Regulus listened to what had happened to him. This is the moment. Not a grand revelation, not a battlefield conversion, not a speech from a mentor or a sign from above, just an old elf coming home, suffering, and a young man choosing to hear it. Regulus listened, and the ideology shattered because a cause that uses the voiceless as bait is not a righteous cause. A leader who discards the suffering of the powerless is not worth following. A world built on that kind of power is not a world worth protecting. He understood it immediately. completely. And then, quietly without telling anyone, he started to plan. This is the part of Regulus's story that makes it unlike almost any other in the series. What he does next, he doesn't do it for recognition. He doesn't do it because someone asked him to. He does it because he worked it out himself. And once you know something, you can't unknow it. Before we get to the cave, if this kind of deep character analysis is what you come here for, subscribing means the next one finds you. These videos exist because of the people watching them. That's all I'll say. Here is what Regulus Black did not do. He did not go to Dumbledore. Dumbledore, who was already quietly dismantling Voldemort's power, who knew more than almost anyone, would have taken the information, used it, and filed Regulus as an asset. A resource. Another piece on the board. He did not go to the Order of the Phoenix, who would have seen a young man with a dark mark and made judgments accordingly. He did not go to Sirius. His brother, who had escaped that house, who was living a different life, might have understood. Or might have been too angry or too wary to trust a Black who had willingly worn the mark. He didn't tell anyone. He worked it out alone. And this is what separates Regulus from almost every other character in the series. He was 18 years old. He had no mentor, no access to Dumbledore's knowledge of the dark arts, no Hermione in his corner running research. And he pieced together what the locket was, a horcrux, a piece of Voldemort's soul made physical, before Hermione Granger, before Albus Dumbledore, before nearly everyone. Think about what that means. Regulus Black, alone in the Grimmauld Place library, working in secret, figured out the most protected secret in the entire wizarding world, and then he built a plan to destroy it. The plan was simple, it was also devastating. He would go to the cave, he would drink the potion himself, not Kreacher, so that Kreacher could disapparate them both out once the basin was empty. He would switch the lockets, take the real horcrux, leave a fake. Kreacher would take it home and find a way to destroy it. He wrote the note, and the one that ends up in Harry's hands 2 decades later. To the Dark Lord, I know I will be dead long before you read this. He wrote that line before he walked out the door. Not because he planned to die in the cave, because he knew that once Voldemort discovered the switch, he would come for Regulus. He was already making peace with it, already accepting it. He folded the note, he tucked it inside the locket. He told Kreacher, we leave tonight. And here's the thing that breaks me every time I read this. He didn't have to do it himself. He could have sent Kreacher. He had already ordered Kreacher to do harder things. But he didn't. He sat down at that basin. He looked at the elf who had come home broken, and he refused to put him through it again. They went together. Kreacher, because he knew the way. Regulus, because he had chosen to. The cave required a blood offering at the entrance. Regulus gave his blood. He opened the passage. They walked inside. The potion in the basin did not kill you. That was almost the cruelest part. It caused visions, like terrible, relentless visions, and an unbearable thirst that could only be quenched by the poisoned water below. The kind of thirst that overrides reason, that overrides self-preservation. And you could not stop drinking until the basin was completely empty. And when the basin was empty, the inferi in the lake would rise. Kreacher moved toward the basin first. Regulus stopped him. He sat down at the edge. He looked at Kreacher, and he gave him a direct order. The kind that cannot be disobeyed, delivered in a voice that didn't waver. Take the real locket when I switch them. Go home. Destroy it if you can. Do not tell my parents what happened. Do not mourn. Then he began to drink. He drank the whole basin. Alone. Cup by cup. While the visions came and the thirst sharpened into something unbearable, while Kreacher watched and wept and could not intervene because the order had been given. When the basin was empty, the inferi rose, and Regulus was pulled under. He was 18 years old. He died at the bottom of a dark lake in a cave that nobody knew the location of, and there was no body to find, and nobody came for him, and the world moved on. Kreacher went home with the locket and kept the secret for nearly 20 years. Kreacher tried to destroy the locket. He couldn't. He didn't have the magic required. He kept it instead, carried it, protected it, because Regulus had asked him to. That locket sat in a display cabinet at Grimmauld Place for years. It ended up around Dolores Umbridge's neck. It spent months in a tent with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, twisting their moods, poisoning their relationships, because it was a horcrux and it had never been destroyed. Regulus's plan worked perfectly up until the point where a house elf, alone, wasn't able to finish it. He had asked for the impossible. Kreacher had done everything he could. Nearly 20 years after Regulus walked into that cave, Harry Potter opens the locket. He's inside it, the same cave, the same dark water, the same basin. He came looking for the horcrux and found the fake instead. Inside it, a note. He reads it. Read it slowly, let every line land. To the Dark Lord. I know I will be dead long before you read this, but I want you to know that it was I who discovered your secret. I have stolen the real Horcrux and intend to destroy it as soon as I can. I face death in the hope that when you meet your match, you will be mortal once more. R.A.B. Harry doesn't know who R.A.B. is. He tucks the note in his pocket. He gets out of the cave, and Regulus Black, who worked alone, who asked for nothing, who told the only witness not to mourn, becomes a clue, a footnote, a piece of the puzzle that Harry needed to finish the war, which is exactly what Regulus intended. He didn't do it for recognition, not for redemption in anyone's eyes, but his own, not to be remembered or thanked or mourned. He did it because he had finally seen clearly. And once you see clearly, you can't pretend otherwise. That is the purest definition of courage in 7 books, not the loudest, not the most visible, not the kind that gets a speech or a monument or a name spoken at a funeral, the kind that happens in the dark, with no audience, for no reward. Sirius died in a blaze of light, surrounded by people who loved him, in the middle of a fight. Regulus died alone in a lake, having already ordered his only companion not to grieve, and I think about that a lot. The Black family tapestry burned him off, his name removed, his memory erased, another void where a person used to be. But Kreacher remembered in Book 7 when Harry finally gives Kreacher the locket, when he finally treats him with something like dignity. Kreacher transforms. He becomes loyal. He carries Regulus in the only place that memory survived, and you are watching this, which means Regulus Black is still being remembered. Years after the war ended, long after the Dark Lord was gone. He didn't ask for this. He wouldn't have expected it. He made his choice, wrote his note, walked into the dark, but we're still here, still saying his name. Regulus Arcturus Black. He knew exactly what he was doing.